Welcome back to Press Review in Depth. An editorial by David Ignatius Features in the Beirut-based Daily Star. It looks at efforts in the West to back the rebels in Syria. The writer starts with a dash of sarcasm, saying the spy master's conclave featured Prince Mohammed bin Nayef, Saudi Arabia's interior minister, who will now supervise the kingdom's leading role in the covert action program. He replaces Prince Bandar bin Sultan, whose leadership of the program was seen as uneven. Ignatius believes that Prince Mohammed's new oversight role reflects the increasing concern in Saudi Arabia and neighboring countries about al-Qaeda's growing power within the Syrian opposition. And during the Washington gathering, Turkey, Qatar, Jordan and other regional powers that have been supporting the rebels agreed to coordinate the raid so it goes directly to moderate fighters and not to extremists of the Nusra Front and al-Qaeda affiliates and the ISIS. Ignatius makes it clear it's too early to tell whether this makeover is cosmetic or signifies real changes on the battlefield, and in an attempt to bolster the chronically weak moderate opposition, which lost ground over the past year to both the Syrian army and the jihadist fighters close to al-Qaeda. Assistance will be especially important to facilitate aid flows, which has been disrupted by political infighting between Turkey and Qatar on the one hand, and Saudi Arabia and Jordan on the other. The writer adds new commanders are said to be working closely with the Syrian Revolutionaries Front, a moderate group headed by Jamal Maruf, met last week inside Syria with Ahmed Jarba, the Saudi-backed leader of the Syrian opposition coalition. Arab sources argue that Saudi Arabia's sponsorship of both the political and military wings of the opposition is another positive sign after months of discord. And in conclusion, Ignatius said underlying these changes is the fact that Saudi Arabia and the US are working together again on Syria policy after a year of increasingly bitter disagreement. The revived US-Saudi alliance won't topple Assad, but it will reduce what had become a dangerous regional feud. And joining us today is political activist based in London and political analyst Haitham Alsibahie. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. Hello? Yeah.
Mr. Alsibahie, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
In the Daily Star in Beirut, David Ignatius wrote today, observing a new US-Saudi rapprochement. Do you see this as a threat to President Assad?
I can't hear you clearly. Would you repeat the question, please?
An article in the Daily Star in Lebanon by David Ignatius observes a new US and Saudi rapprochement, an improvement of relations between Saudi Arabia and the United States. Do you see this as a threat to President Assad?
No, we know from the beginning Saudi has some good relation over Syria with the Americans, although they ran into trouble for a few months just because of the Saudi stand wasn't in the interest of the United States. But there is nothing as we view as a threat to President Assad, because President Assad has his line with his supporters, and that's what he implementing. It's on the Syrian ground. So whatever comes from outside, always Syria is ready for it. We know policies can change. We know disagreements can happen. So, I mean, between various countries who have some intervention in Syria or have some influence on the ground with the terrorist group or with the gunmen. But this doesn't change anything when it comes to Syrian government policy.
Yes. And in his conclusion, Ignatius says the revived US-Saudi alliance will not topple President Assad, but it will reduce what had become a dangerous regional battle. What is it, in your opinion, that keeps Mr. Assad in his very strong position after 3 years of conflict in the country?
Well, Mr. Assad has the majority of the Syrian people support. He has the support of his military. He has the support of his government. His government is intact. His diplomatic team is intact. Whatever they try to promote from the outside as trouble for the Syrian government still intact and is the main player on the ground. And as we can see, the military force in Syria is advancing on the ground, and he can go wherever he wants to. He was waiting for complete political agreement or agreement with some of the government who was fueling the gunmen and the terrorists on the ground. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, the Syrian army is taking control of the ground. And for the Syrians, so for some Syrian people, or the most, this is what they want. And now what's happening also in Syria is the reconciliation with some areas like Homs, Muaddamiyeh, Barze, and it happens 2 days ago in Babila and Saham area. The people, these gunmen, who they are, being fed something from the outside. Is the government coming to kill them or something, and they resorted to arms. They understand very well there is nothing more important to them than reconciliation with the Syria. At the end of the day, we are the Syrians, and we have to solve our problems on our ground together without any intervention from outside. International politics can play parts on it, but now most of the people who went or believe Turkey or believe Saudi Arabia or Qatar or United States or Britain, now they understand very well there is no place for them except to come and work with the Syrian on the Syrian soil to solve this matter, as we don't want any Syrians from both sides to be killed or to be injured or to be replaced. This is what we want. We want all the Syrians together, and most of the Syrians now they understand and they feel this is the only way.
And Mr. Alsibahie, there is a bit of a makeover between the Western powers and their Arab allies in the region. Do you think it is a genuine makeover not to support terrorism and support maybe the moderate rebels, as it's been observed in the article? Do you think it's a genuine makeover, or is it just a step to improve their own reputation?
Well, this is to improve their own reputation. Let me tell you something. If they're talking about the terrorist group, this is we understand from the beginning who killed 125 policemen in just a Shuhur, who throw
who killed them? Who killed these policemen?
This is some elements from outside, from Muslim Brotherhoods and others. They created all the situation with the help of Qatar, with help with Al Jazeera, and they fabricate everything. The guys who throw the postman work or the post office workers in Aleppo off the building from the roof, they were not what you call them Iraq and Levant group in the beginning. When they killed Nidal Janud in the beginning, also this is a Syrian were fueled from the outside, and also the one who attacked the soldiers in Banyas returning home in the beginning, that in the first months of this crisis, were just Syrians. I'm sorry to say, they are fueled from the outside, they are financed from outside. All this time, they're sending arms and sending money. This didn't work. The money didn't work, the arms didn't work, because these regional governments are dealing with thugs living on the border with Syria. Now they found out, now they want a reconciliation. The reconciliation is only between Syrians, not the group who is listening to outside. Anybody can want to listen to outside, stay outside Syria. Will stay outside Syria.
Haitham, if it's concrete, it's a concrete fact that reconciliation is taking part within Syria. Why do you think the West is still considering military intervention if reconciliation is in process and spreading out in the country?
The West is considering military intervention since 1977, just after 1973 war. Syria, the West never stopped sanctions against Syria, never stopped bothering Syria. We know exactly. The whole world knows why. Syria has a stand against Israel. And as soon as that stand kept going, this is Syria what is going to face. We will not change. The Syrians will not change that stand. Although some elements of so-called Free Syrian Army went to be to the Israeli hospitals, but majority of the Syrians understand their stand, understand what the West want to do, understand exactly what we are facing. We faced this before, we're going to face it now, we're going to face it later. This is our stand in Syria, and we will face it. And this area is for us. Syria is for the Syrians. It's not for the West. It's not for the United States, not for Britain, not for France, not for their allies in the region who want to have their stand and be, attacking the countries who stand against Israel or stand for the region, for the people of the region. We will face them. If the Saudi decide this is fine. The Qatar, they decided and they failed, and now the Saudi want to take it. The problem with the Gulf countries, they think everything's done by money. We have an ideology in Syria, and our ideology is going to survive no matter what. Exactly how our army is survived. Our army is advancing on the ground, and the whole world is looking at it, and they don't believe how the Syrian army survived, the Syrian political system survived, the Syrian diplomatic team survived, the Syrian government survived. We are in Syria since 50 years. We are prepared for moments like this. It comes actually from what we call Arabs brothers, and they stabbed us in the back. But now, from now on, we know they are not going to stab us in the back because we understand their policy, we understand where they're heading, and we work for our country. There is nothing wrong for us to work for Syria. Syria is our country, and no one from the outside is going to tell us what to do in Syria. And this is the Syrians now, and the Syrians on the ground understand this fully.
Thank you very much again for joining us today, Haitham Alsibahie. Thank you. That was Haitham Alsibahie, also member of the Syrian Social Club in the UK. And for more updates, please visit us on Levant.tv. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.